الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا فلعلك باخع نفسك على آثارهم إن لم يؤمنوا بهذا الحديث أسفا إنا جعلنا لها لنبلوهم أيهم أحسن عملا وإنا لجاعلون ما عليها صعيدا جرزا أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا فضربنا على آذانهم في الكهف سنين عددا ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي الحزبين يحصى لما لبثوا أمدا نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا هؤلاء قوم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة لولا يأتون عليهم بسلطان بين فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
One, two. Hang on. Sound all right? Yep. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the Imam Hussein Islamic Center, and as always it's a pleasure, a privilege and an honor to host you here this evening and everybody who's watching online as well. Thank you once again, Sheikh, for joining us for another fun-filled episode. Last week, Sheikh, we talked about forgiveness. And in the previous weeks, we had kind of a build-up to these two subjects, to these two topics, I think, forgiveness and now supplication. I know that it's kind of late on a Friday night at the end of a working week, and like you and most people, there's a bit of fatigue going around, not just because it's late, but also because of now we have this wonderful new variant that's coming to hunt you down and take over your Christmas and summer break again. So defenses are back up. Let's get straight into it, Sheikh. What is supplication?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. When we read Ayat al-Kursi, Allah mentions himself as Qayyum. That means he's self-subsistent. Whereas if you look at human beings, we need someone else to subsist.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just live on our own. And not in only one aspect, not only in our material needs, in our spiritual needs, in in our personal needs, in our social needs, in every facet of our life, we require help. So the fact that we need help, we need to ask for help. And supplication is basically when you earnestly ask for help, when you beseech, when you implore, when you beg. This is what supplication is. Because you are in need, absolutely in need. There's no part where you are self-sufficient. That's what you need to understand. You cannot say, I'm okay here.
Yeah.
And that's what dua is. It's you showing your reliance and asking from what your creator, the one that gives you everything.
Yeah.
That's what it is pretty much.
Let's get, excuse me, let's get a little semantics out of the way. Supplication is dua. Yeah?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the translation or the equivalent of supplication in Arabic is dua, and dua in Arabic and English is supplication.
Well, you could say that, yeah,
Oh,
pretty much. I'm trying to, because even if you look at salat,
Yeah.
salat is dua.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we call salat prayers. Prayer means dua as well.
Yep.
It's a form of but the actual dua is, like I said, it's a process of you asking.
Yep. So how then, you mentioned salah is dua. How is salah dua?
Well, if you look in the Qur'an where it says that Allah Azza wa Jal says that ask me and you shall receive.
Yep.
And whoever is too arrogant or too stubborn or too proud to work, and he mentions it as a worship, from my worship. So he calls the dua there a worship, and salah is also a worship. And he says that they'll be placed in hell. Because some people think I'm above asking God, I'm above praying to God. Because this is the whole idea. The whole idea of the prayer, it's a process of gratitude. And when I show gratitude, what am I doing? Technically, I'm asking for more.
Yeah.
In shakartum, la'azidannakum. So when you're grateful in your prayer, you're asking for more. And it's a form of worship. And it's such an it's such an integral form of worship that Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says it's the most beloved dua.
Yeah.
Is the most beloved form of worship.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Then is that why we have the obligatory salah during the day?
See, with salah, it's different. The obligatory salah is a duty. Okay. The dua it's not a duty per se in the sense like when I pray, it's a duty that if I don't do, that I have to make up for. I don't have to make up for the dua.
Right.
But it's a duty in the sense that I have to recognize that I'm in need. And it covers everything. Like firstly, I said it's the most beloved action for God. It's the best form of worship. I think the hadith says, I want to read it. Imam al-Baqir says, أفضل العبادة الدعاء. The best worship is dua. The other one was Amir al-Mu'minin, not Imam al-Sadiq. He says, أحب الأعمال إلى الله في الأرض الدعاء. The most beloved action to Allah is dua. That's why when people say, oh, what about salawat? Salawat is a dua.
Yeah, everything is a dua.
It's a dua. So dua basically is me manifesting in action my need for God.
Yeah.
You know, I'm turning to God fully. I'm turning. There's nowhere where when someone does dua where it's a half an effort. Either they're in it or they're not in it.
Well, it's tough, but we're going to get to that
It's
one
your
later.
defense.
Yeah.
And it's your offense.
Yeah.
In fact, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I think the Messenger of God sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says dua is the weapon of the believer.
Yeah.
Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says it's the shield of the believer.
Yeah.
So it's your offense and it's your defense. You do dua so you can move ahead in life. You do dua to protect yourself
Yeah.
from evil. If you look, one good example is where Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Dua Arafah. This is one of my favorite parts of Dua.
Yeah.
He says, I don't know. He says about thanking Allah. I'm thanking you for what you've given me, but I'm thanking you even more for what you've prevented from affecting me.
Yeah.
Because, people forget this. You know how many times, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an that whatever you do, وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ, anything that befalls you is from your own doing.
Yeah.
And then God says, وَنَعْفُ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ, we overlook a lot. I'll tell you, how many times have you got into a car accident, come out unscathed? You've had an accident, and you know when you say, I was this close to banging my head, I was this close to hit. No, you weren't that close. God prevented it. But you actually think about it. You think about it. There's a lot of episodes that happen in your life. You go, I don't know how they missed that. Or you sometimes watching your kid falls, they bounce and they're missing everything. They hit something, they go, oh my God, they missed every dangerous thing. Or you see them running and they go head first and they just miss the point of the table. Oh. How does that happen?
It's scary. Your heart skips a beat,
this is
doesn't it?
what, see, Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling you, this is my world.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world. I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Believe me when I tell you I'm in charge.
Yep.
And that's how you got to be.
Yeah.
Believe that God controls
So
it.
there's
That's what it is.
you're introducing new variables here, new factors here. There's belief. There's the supplication or the dua. There's dua with intent and attention or wholeheartedness. There's a lot here.
Well, look, the thing is, with everything requires ma'rifah. Yeah. Everything requires ma'rifah. Or you visit the Imam, Salamullah alayhi. Sometimes when you mention the tragedy of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, people might ask, okay, how do I understand the tragedy? So before you understand, you need to understand who is Fatima. What does Fatima alayhi salam say in Khutbah al-Fadakiyya? Ayyuha an-nas a'lamu anni Fatima. Know that I am Fatima. Wa Abi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And my father is Rasulullah. Know who I am. Before you can understand the magnitude of what the story you're about to be told, you need to understand in dua, man huwa Allah. I need to know, who am I talking to? I need to know that the one I'm asking, see, in life we have what's called wasta, connections. And we have shu'un. There's two things. We have connections that people, for example, this world, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yep. You can get a job anywhere by knowing people.
Yep.
And this is done through what? It's done through connections. But there's also a thing called shu'un. Shu'un is, if I want a small favor, I go to a lower rank guy. The bigger the favor I want, I've got to go to a higher rank guy.
Sometimes it'll cost you more too.
See, with Allah, there's no wasta. There's no connection in the sense that there's ways. Like, for example, dua, you've got to do in a certain way.
Yeah.
There's paths to go,
Yeah.
but there's no wasta. Allah Azza wa Jalla, there's no connection to get to Him in that sense. It's not like God doesn't hear you unless Gabriel's happy. It's not like that. And with God, there's no shu'un. What do I mean by shu'un? If you look at the daily prayer, like when you listen to the daily prayer that the Christians read, the one, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And they say, give us this day
our daily bread.
Our daily bread. Asking for this day our daily bread. Asking for your daily bread is as easy for God to make. You think how easy it is? Yeah. The same ease He does this, He can create the entire universe.
Yeah.
So when I'm asking, I've got to think of this. This is easy. وَهُوَ عَنْدِي, as Imam al-Mahdi says in Dua al-Iftitah, وَهُوَ عَنْدِي كَثِير. It's a lot what I'm asking. وَهُوَ عَلَيْكَ سَهْلٌ يَسِيرٌ. This is easy. This is pocket change. This is not a problem for you. You can do this and you won't get affected in the least. So the first thing I need to know is, who am I asking? That's the first part, which is i'tiraf. Who am I asking? The ability of God. The second thing is, what am I asking for? I've got to prioritize what I'm asking for. And some people, they'll sit there and they do dua for something, as Allah says in the Qur'an, وَيَدْعُ الْإِنسَانُ بِالشَّرِّ دُعَاءَهُ بِالْخَيْرِ وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانَ عَجُولًا. That humans pray for evil as what they should pray for good. How? I remember once we go on Mashai, Ziyarat Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Allah grant us all the Ziyarah of Hussein. And one guy told me, when we get there, I'm gonna get to the shrine and I'm gonna ask for money. A lot of people do that. They say, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna ask for money. When we got to Karbala, I saw him. Did you visit? Yes. Did you ask for money? He said, no. I said, why not? That's what you wanted. He said, when I was doing the Mashai, I fell asleep. He said, in my dream, I saw copious amounts of money in my account. I was so rich. He said, and I just went out. Because it was like a story. And when I started partying, going out, I absolutely lost the plot. He said, I started using drugs, I started drinking. He goes, it was like a movie unfolding. And then I woke up. And he goes, I woke up, you know, when you have one of those dreams, you were shaken. And he said, I just went to the shrine and I asked Allah for guidance. Sometimes you're asking for something that's not for you. We do this all the time. We ask for things that aren't for us. But we don't know what's right for us. That's why when I ask, sometimes, because there's several reasons why something doesn't happen. But sometimes one of them, it's not good for you. The other thing is, you need to ask yourself why you are asking for this. Okay, so firstly, I've got to think about why I'm asking for this, or I'm doing dua. When I say why, firstly, what I'm asking for, why I'm asking God, why aren't I just doing it myself? You know, there's people tell you, I'll do it myself. Why am I asking? Because I need to know that. Don't be too proud to ask. See, you know, when you look at the people and you say this person's begging, I'm a beggar when it comes to God. You look at this person, you say he's a slave, I'm a slave when it comes to God. I'm in that position. I have to see myself in that position. Because when I do see myself in that position, I have the capability.
So you have to remove your ego and go with full humility.
Finally, I gotta the manner in which I ask. Okay, sometimes people ask, you know, like someone, as if they're ordering something. Yeah, could you get me? I want the bread extra toasted or something like that. No. How are we asking God? How am I turning? You know, when you look at, once again, I'll go Dua Arafah, but this time Imam Ali ibn al-Husayn's Dua Arafah. And then he says, do you know who's asking you? Ana al-Haqir al-Dhalil. He says, I'm the nothing. Dhalil, I'm the abased that's asking you. Not just him, remember me? I'm this person. In fact, I've got to understand, I've got nothing to offer God. Allahu Samad. There's nothing you can give God. I've got to understand I'm worthless. I'm totally, imagine you're in that position. You've got nothing to offer. I'll give you a good example. Imagine you're out in the sea and you're drowning. You're caught out in the ocean and someone comes, a boat, and they've got a safety life, what's called the wheel, what do they call it?
Yeah.
The lifesaver. They're going to throw it in there and pull you out of the water. If he turns around and says, you're an idiot, what are you doing out here? What are you going to say? Call me whatever you want, just give me the wheel.
Yeah.
You know, you're at their mercy.
Yep.
This is how you have to see yourself before your Creator. You're at your Creator's mercy. Because the thing is also, when you're asking, people always ask, how do I know God will accept this? How do I know God will forgive me? Because the whole world tells you what? I see all these people you have on WhatsApp. Oh, new variant, we're all going to die. Everyone just scares you. Everyone talks about the future of the world. The doctor says there's no hope. Your friends say there's no hope. Everyone around you says no hope. But you know when you pick up the dua, it screams hope. Look what it's saying to me. I will do this. I will do this. I am God. You want it gone? I can make it gone. You've got this ailment, I'll fix it for you. You have this problem, I can make it as if it did not exist. What? Come to me. Knock on my door. If it breaks, break my door. You seen those beggars when you're out in the shrine and he's grabbing your clothes and won't leave you alone? You want to be worse than those. Worse than those, that you beg in a way, because if Allah Azza wa, you know, when Imam Zain al-Abidin, Dua bi Hamza Thamali, he says, Haribun minka ilayk. I'm running away from you to you.
Yeah.
I'm running away from your wrath to your mercy. So when I'm asking God, I've got to ask like that. I've got to understand that everything is in His hands. Like you, look, this one excerpt from the dua.
Sure.
In Dua bi Hamza, he says, Walhamdulillah alladhi tahabbaba ilayya wa huwa ghaniyun anni. Imagine a friend that is your friend and you do not benefit from it at all. They're the ones with the money. They're the ones with the contacts. They're the one. If you've got nothing to contribute to a friendship. Even a celebrity, you know, the tag-alongs, groupies that hang out with him, he benefits from them, that they give him company. They give him company. There's something.
There's still some
imagine
value
you
there, yeah.
don't even contribute a thing. Allah yatahabbab. Allah bugs you to talk to him. Allah, you know, when you get sick, it's deliberate. God wants to hear your voice. Something goes wrong, it's deliberate. God wants to hear your voice. وَهُوَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِّي. He doesn't even need me. وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي. Listen to this. يَحْلُمُ عَنِّي حَتَّى كَأَنِّي لَا ذَنْبَ لِي. Who is this God that is tolerant with me, forbears me as if I've never committed a sin? He treats me like I've done nothing. You know, like, look at us, someone does one small thing, oh my God, it's going to take a while for you to be forgiven. We disobey day and night. We run amok. And God talks to us as if we've done nothing wrong. You know, you're right, everything okay? I'm here, you can still talk to me. But doesn't need you. He puts you in this position. So He lets you know that it's there.
Yep.
The doorway's there. That's how, so when I ask God, I've got to ask in this manner. It's in His hands. Things can change. Everything can change. Everything can be fixed.
So, Sheikh, thank you for those points, and really important points there. But I wanted to go back to what you said right at the beginning. You talked about wasta, right? How does that then fit with tawassul?
Okay.
And what is tawassul? This is a whole topic in itself, I know.
Yeah.
But I just want to touch on this so that we can move on to the next part.
Okay. Firstly, when we go to the Hajj, how do we go to the Hajj? There's set laws. When we fast in Shahr Ramadan, how do we fast? Set laws. Can I decide how to pray? Can I decide how to fast, when to fast? Can I say, hold on, you know, the Hajj is full of people. I'm going to go to the Hajj in Rabi' al-Awwal. Yeah, I'm not going to go there. I can't decide, or I'm not going to fast Shahr Ramadan. It's, you know, if I'm overseas in the Northern Hemisphere, it's during summer, I'll wait till it goes to winter and then I'll fast. I can't choose to pray Salatul Subh at 10 a.m. Everything there is a way. And Allah says, وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ. So you have to use the means to talk to God. There is a means. And when you go to, for example, when you go to the Qur'an, you look at the brothers of Yusuf. When they disobeyed God through what they did to Yusuf, they wanted to repent. Who was the Rasul and the Prophet at their time? It was Yaqub. So they went to him and said, "Oh Father, ask for our forgiveness." So Allah, if you do not, Allah won't forgive us. You ask for our forgiveness. And Allah says in the Quran to the believers, if they come to you, to the Prophet, وَاسْتَغْفَرُ اللَّهُ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمْ الرَّسُولُ, that they repent at the Prophet, and the Prophet repents for them, لَوَجَدُ اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا, that they will find Allah is most merciful, is oft return, oft merciful, if they come through the Prophet. You know, there's like select places. One of the narrations that I got, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, there was one narration I got where Imam al-Sadiq, salamullah alayh, he says, Inna He says, إن تهيأ لك أن تصلي صلواتك كلها الفرائض وغيرها عند الحطيم. Okay? إن تهيأ لك أن تصلي صلواتك كلها والفرائض وغيرها عند الحطيم فافعل فإن أفضل بقعة على وجه الأرض فإنها أفضل بقعة على وجه الأرض. Sorry, I've got a lot in it. The Imam says if you are capable of praying all your prayers and all the mustahabbat in the Hatim. The Hatim is, you know, where the door of the Kaaba is and where the Hajar al-Asad is, or Aswad as they call it now. If you can pray there, that corner, see that corner? Is it possible? But he says if you're able to, this is the best piece of land on the earth, that part. If you're capable, then pray there. So there is select places to pray. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Inna tahta qubbatihi al-ijaba. About Imam Hussein, beneath the dome of Imam Hussein, your dua is accepted. It's answered. So there's several narrations that will tell you there's certain things that Allah selects. But when I read, now we'll get to this, Ziyar Jam' al-Kabira. He says in the Ziyarah, it's an Imam al-Hadi, Allahumma inni law wajad shufa'a aqrabu ilayka min Muhammadin wa alihi al-athar laja'altuhum shufa'a. That Allah, I'm coming towards you, and there are those that, there's doorways, like we have Salah, we have Hajj, they are the doorway to God. How do I know about this? If I found better than them, I would make it. How do I know they're the best? And how do I know that that's the doorway? Go through the hadith. When Adam, read the Qur'an. See, a lot of people, they read the Qur'an, they don't understand the words. When Adam is cast out of paradise, how does he turn back to God? The Qur'an says, فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ. That Adam learned some words from Allah, then Allah forgave him. What were the words he taught him? Taught him, يا حميد بحق محمد ويا عالي بحق علي ويا فاطر بحق فاطمة ويا محسن بحق الحسن ويا قديم الإحسان بحق الحسين. In the name of the five Ashab al-Qisa, forgive me, take me back. So Allah taught us this way. Every prophet turned back in the names of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wasalam alayhi. A lot of people do not read the narrations. Allah has chosen this doorway in the Qur'an. So we can't say it's not in the Qur'an. In the narrations, in the actions of the Imams, in the actions of the Prophet. So once I had someone come up to me and they said, hold on, this is shirk. Someone had told him this is shirk, and they gave him a hadith and all that. They'll bring a million things. And I said, if this is shirk, then why did Umar ibn al-Khattab do it? He said, where did he do it? I said, it's in Sahih Bukhari, not anywhere else. There's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari where Umar wanted it to rain. He wanted it to rain. So he went up to Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet. If anyone wants this, I'll send it to you, the actual hadith with the source and everything. So he went up to him and said, the narrations, I think the narrator is, it's Abdullah ibn Umar that narrates it, or Ibn Abbas, but I'll have the narration. And in Sahih Bukhari, to the other sects of Islam is completely authentic. So he says we used to, in the days when there was drought, we used to ask through the Prophet for it to rain. And because you are the uncle of the Prophet, we've come, subhanAllah, Imam Ali alayhi salam's there, but they go to Abbas. So we come to the uncle of the Prophet to ask him for it to rain. And the narrator says, and he did, and it rained. So firstly, not only did they use this tawassul, number one. Number two, it worked. So either Omar was committing shirk, according to this, if this is shirk, or Ibn Abbas or Abdullah ibn Omar is narrating a false hadith, or Sahih Bukhari isn't authentic. You can't have your cake and eat it. You got to choose which one it is. So you got to choose which point is the correct one. So tawassul has always been there. It's the means, but it's not. See, the problem with tawassul, some people have the opinion that, are we saying that the imam is the sustainer? The imam, and no one says that.
He's representative.
No one says that. We go back to an age-old argument. You know, one man came up to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. He said, is it true that you can perform miracles like the prophets? You know how did the Imam respond? Unbelievable response. He said, would you find it hard for God to allow a mosquito or a fly to perform a miracle? He goes, no. Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. He says, alasna khayrun min al-ba'ud. He says, are we not better than mosquitoes? The way the Imam says it, he puts him on the spot.
Yep.
Imam doesn't say we're greater than the universe like they are, but he says, are we not, and you're denying the ability of God, you're not denying the ability of the Imam. It's all got to do with God's ability. So that's how tawassul comes into the picture.
Okay, Sheikh. Next question, and I know we could talk about tawassul a lot more. It is a very deep subject, and unfortunately there are a lot of misconceptions around it. Sheikh, you've kind of touched on this already today, but I wanted to bring you back to last week's discussion about forgiveness. What is the relationship between forgiveness and supplication? And you've gone one step beyond that already this evening by also mentioning another factor, which is gratitude and giving thanks to God. What's the relationship there? How does the forgiveness and the gratitude tie in with dua?
Firstly, you know how the dua is actually basically, remember I said about tawbah and istighfar, that tawbah is you turning back, istighfar is for you to say it. For example, with gratitude, if I want to show thanks, Allah, how does He understand my gratitude? Or He says that when you recognize in your heart of hearts that Allah is the means of what you have. Doesn't matter how many hands I went through, Allah is the source. Before you even say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Amara bi, Allah commands that you are given more. Before you even say it. Istighfar is like that. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih says, the moment a believer has nadama, he regrets. That's enough. Then he does dua, Allah forgives him. Just have that regret. They regret what they did. That's enough, God forgives them. But then they supplicate. Why? Because then the voice comes. It's like when someone comes up to me and says, I want to convert to Islam. I want to join Islam, become a Muslim. And I tell them pretty much, you are a Muslim. They said, no, I want to say the Shahada. They want to do the affirmation. They want to say, but you are. It's here. This is Islam. But you want to make the affirmation. You want to say the Shahada to cement it. That's why it's good to say, you know, I remember when we were children and we were kids, little kids, and my mum used to bathe us. She used to make us say the Shahada every time. You know, every time you bathe us, you say the Shahada. It's good to keep saying it, to keep remembering Ashhad. You know, just sit down and say Ashhadu an la ilaha. Say it over. So the istighfar is a dua as well. So I'm saying like, Allahumma forgive me. Oh Allah, forgive me. But deep down, I know I'm forgiven. Because I know who I'm dealing with.
Okay, I want to deviate from this. At this point, I want to deviate onto something else. Why did the Imams, the Prophets, all of those who we believe are infallible, why did they seek forgiveness from God?
Okay. Firstly,
and just to add to that, in the context of dua, it's fair enough for somebody to sit there and reciting, doing the tasbih, do astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. But in the context of dua, why were they seeking forgiveness from God?
Istighfar is not only about asking for forgiveness. It's asking for protection from sin as well. And it's asking for protection of any shortcomings. Even the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa ask Allah not to place his affairs in his own hands, not even for a twinkling of an eye, as I mentioned last week. They do istighfar. Firstly, some of the things they did were to teach us. Like when Imam Ali alayhi salam said to Rasulullah, he would say, what is the best action in this month for Ramadan?
Istighfar.
Of course he knows what it
Yeah.
is. You know, but he's just showing us what to ask. Because if he doesn't answer his questions, you think anyone's going to ask that question? The Prophet finishes the sermon. You know, when Imam Ali alayhi salam was the Imam, and he said, he said, ask me before you lose me. And that man said, how many hairs are there in my head? That's the type of questions people ask.
Yeah.
You know, like if you say to someone, if I said, look, you got one question to ask and receive the answer, you're not allowed to ask another question after that. Someone would turn up and say, really? And that's it.
That's it. That's your question, right?
That's what people are like that. They would blow it that quickly. So the Imams had to ask questions. When they do dua, they need to show you how to do the dua.
Yeah.
You need to know how to turn to the Imam obviously is not speaking about himself. He's infallible by authority of the Qur'an. The Qur'an says that إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ Allah Azza wa Jalla says that they are cleansed.
Yeah.
A thorough purification. There's no sin in them. So I know for a fact that it's got nothing with them asking for this, but they're teaching us how to read supplications. Otherwise, when the Imam says when he speaks about says how mean am I? Hasha al-Imam that he's mean.
Yeah.
He's the manifestation of God's mercy.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to see God's, just like we say the paradise is a manifestation of God's mercy. The messenger of God is a manifestation of God's mercy.
I've also heard that istighfar and dua is when you recite more genuinely, of course, that it's an elevation of your status.
Of course. Well, every time you do istighfar, you not only do you get an increase in your status, you increase in everything. Istighfar, you never have a hadith that says only do istighfar if you've committed sin.
And do istighfar all the time.
Yeah, you do istighfar all the time. There's no limitation on the istighfar that you do.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Sheikh. I'm glad you clarified that. Now, I want to ask. We've been through what is dua. How I haven't asked you, but I'll ask you two questions in one, right? How does one make dua, and also are there different types of dua?
Okay, I already mentioned the steps to make dua, and what you got to do. There are different types of dua. Firstly, there's dua. It's called dua. There's munajat, and dua is basically where you ask an employee, supplicate. You can do it in a loud voice. When munajat, they call them the whispered prayers. It doesn't mean I have to sit and whisper them, but they're whispered prayers, because the word najwa means in secret. Okay, whereas it's where you have that moment with God, and you sit down, and the munajat al-15 for Imam Zain al-Abidin, munajat Amir al-Mu'mineen in Masjid al-Kufa, which is one of the most beautiful du'as you can listen to. The one says, Mawlaya, Mawlaya, Anta al-Kabir wa ana al-Saghir. Yeah. So you have this type of dua, but a very important dua, and this is something that's always neglected by people, is dua for others. Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, in a very famous narration, where she was doing dua for all her neighbors and all the believers. And Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, once again, to ask her, so we can understand, he asks her that you've done dua for everyone except us. And then she says, my son, al-jar thumma ad-dar. First the neighbor, then the home. So I do dua for others. We have a hadith where the Imam says, Inna Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala yastajibu du'a ghaibin li ghaib. You know, when you do dua for someone that's not there, Allah answers that dua. Allah answers that dua. So when you pray for someone, tells you they have a problem, they tell you pray for them, pray for them. You solve that problem for them. Pray for them. Or whenever you hear someone with an issue, pray for them. And that's why when someone says to us, You know, one center I speak at, I love this. Whenever I'm getting up to the mamba, it's the only center that does this. As I'm walking, every single person says, "Nas'alukum ad-du'a, nas'alukum ad-du'a." Till I get to the mamba, they also ask you dua. They do this deliberately. So when you do dua, whenever you say, "Oh Allah," everyone that asked for dua, they're part of it.
Yep.
They do this, "Nas'alukum ad-du'a," as you're getting up to the top, so they can be a part of the people. So dua for others, that's really forgotten. We're used to doing dua for ourselves.
Yep.
There's one dua which I gave to someone today to read. I told them to read dua. This is one of my pet du'as. I love this dua. It's a dua that you do for your children. You're not going to do it once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year. But it's a really good dua Imam Zain al-Abidin does for his kids. And it pretty much teaches you how to be able to raise your kids, and it helps you with problems with your children. At the end of the dua is my favorite part. He says, "Oh Allah, everything I ask for my children, do it for all the believers and their children." And this is the nicest part of the dua, because you're remembering everyone, and it's part of the sequence in which the dua is done. So that's the other thing, doing dua for other people.
Awesome. Thank you, Sheikh. Sheikh, this is a tough one, and one that I certainly don't have the knowledge or the skill to be able to answer, but it's been on my mind as well as the person who's asked this. And that is that some say that making dua is actually asking God to change your destiny or to change his mind about what is going to happen to you or what has been determined for you. What can you say about that?
That's a brash statement, to say the least. It's very anthropomorphic in the sense that when I say anthropomorphic, it's got to do with basically associating God with his creation. Whenever I think of God, you know where the verse in the Qur'an says, "Wa ila rabbika al-muntaha," and to your Lord is the end. Imam Sadiq al-Islam says it's talking about God. When you begin to talk about the essence of God, stop. When you start to talk about the essence of God, you reach kufr. Why would you reach kufr? Because you're talking about something you have no idea about. I'll give you an example. I was once sitting down with my brother and a friend, and we're discussing, we're talking, you know how everyone's an expert. You know, today we were going to be economists. So we're sitting there debating over what a recession is. We're all giving our opinion, we're all giving our 2 cents worth. We have no idea. One of the guys sitting with us was doing his doctorate in economics, but he didn't say a word. The whole time he's just listening to the three of us rattling on about something we have absolutely no idea about. And then he just gave us the answer in one sentence, what a recession is. And then we remembered what he does at that point. After we see, this is a person that knows a subject that I have the possibility to learn. I am limited to my material body. I am limited to my material thoughts. Everything for me is a measurement. Everything for me has a point of reference. If someone says something to me, I need to say in reference to what? I'm limited to the 3 dimensions that I live in. I'm limited to length, breadth, and height. That's it. I don't know anything more than what I have. I'm limited to the time. When we say time, see, a lot of people, when we say time, it's the time that is denotes the orbit of the Earth on its axis and the orbit of the Earth around the sun. This one, when I say time, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, like when I say east or west, you know, I'm thinking of the Earth, because if I'm in Mars,
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It
doesn't apply anymore.
It has no bearing there. So my understanding of everything is related to the physical world and the way I perceive the physical world. Allah is beyond this. If you sat and thought about this, okay, before the universe was created, what was God doing? You can't understand.
You can't.
You're trying to enter something. It's like I'm going to perform heart surgery using construction tools. You're using the wrong tools to understand something you have no knowledge of. What is it when I ask Allah? Allah has this amr. This is a massive discussion, but I'll give it to you in the most simplified. It's the amr of bada, which is where Allah Azza wa Jal changes someone's destiny. What's going to happen? But that doesn't mean he changes what was going to happen with him. So it's relative to us, not to him. This is the most difficult part. Where do we see the amr of bada? We see it all the time. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal, in one hadith, I'll give you a very good example in one hadith where you see the amr of bada, is where the Prophet says to his companions, one of the prophets, I think it's Nabi Isa, that you will witness death at this place if you go there, and they turn up and Allah wants to show them the amr of bada. So when they get there, there's no death. And they said, the Prophet, you said that there will be a death here. And the Prophet enters the room and he kicks the bed that they were on, the sofa on the floor, and a snake comes out from under the bed. And he says to them, what did you do last night? They said, a beggar came and knocked on the door and we gave him some money. And he said, this prolonged your life. But there was going to be death here. See, Allah was trying to teach them something, an action. For example, Yusuf was meant to come out of prison. And then he said to the wine pourer, he said, tell your king my story. So then God says, we left him in prison a bit longer. So, you know what I mean? So what happens is an action you do changes your destiny, but this is relative to what I understand. Remember the verse I said, وَنَعْفُ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. Allah Azza wa Jal lets things go. Otherwise, مَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُصِيبَةٍ, that nothing will befall you except by your own hands, would always be applicable.
Would perish.
It would be always totally applicable.
Yeah.
So Allah overlooks things. When does He overlook things? When I do something to make up for this, like being good to my parents, which is something I always hit on to people. You want something to fix up in your life? Be good to your parents. It changes everything.
And give sadaqah.
Give sadaqah is awesome, but I will tell you something. I swear by this. Nothing holds a candle to being good to your parents, because this is all about gratitude. It's all about being really grateful, because you're so nice to a perfect stranger. You know what I mean?
You can't be nice to your own family.
Your own parents, the ones that spent so much in bringing you into this world.
Yep.
So when God changes my destiny or something, it's not that God says, hold on, I'm changing my mind. It's beyond our comprehension as a material being. If we say that's it, it's fate, and that's meant to happen, from my perspective. I do this, and I have a habit of this. My phone rings or something, say at 2 in the morning. One night, I woke up 2 in the morning, my phone was ringing, it was my parents' home number. Before I pick up the phone, 2 in the morning, I say, Tawakkaltu ala Allah. I pick up the phone, no one answered. I called back, no one answered. Saw them in the morning, no one said they called. I fully believe in this. I believe God changed. I believe a tragedy took place. I personally believe this. And God changed it. This is how I've always lived by this. Whenever I get a phone call or someone, like if I hear someone scream, I always say, Tawakkaltu ala Allah before I get up. Tawakkaltu ala Allah. It's in God's hands now. And you always get up and nothing happened. You say, Alhamdulillah. Some people will say, but that's what it was. No, it wasn't. Trust me, the Amr of Bada is something we fully believe in. I'll give you an episode where Amir al-Mu'mineen, in every battle, Amir al-Mu'mineen would return triumphant. In Uhud, he wept. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, qad fatani shahada, that I missed out on getting martyred. That was the only battle. It's as if he was meant to be martyred in Uhud, and Allah changed it. And the proof of this is he's not told of the way he will be killed till after what? On the day of Khandaq, the third battle, is where Rasulullah tells him how he will be killed. So the Amr of Bada plays a role everywhere. It takes a role here, it takes a role there, and this is not God changing his mind. God doesn't have what we have.
Yeah.
It's not in the same. You can't. It's not in the process that we're in. Allah is beyond what we can fathom or what we can comprehend. We can't comprehend what Allah's abilities are there and understand them because His realm's different. What Allah sees, everything that we see, time is a creation of God, for God's sake.
Yep. Yep.
Everything's a creation.
And
so,
it's one of our biggest limitations.
huh?
One of our biggest
Yeah.
limitations.
Yeah. We can't. Do you know something that will drive you mad, drives me mad all the time when I think about it? Is why we have to accept this. Is when Imam Zain al-Abidin, the first dua, Alhamdulillah Thana in Sahih al-Sajadiyya, he says, Alhamdulillah al-awwal bila awwalin kana qabla. He says, praise be to Allah, the first who did not have a first before him. And he goes, wal akhir, the last that has no last
After him.
And you hold on, but people that go to heaven are eternally in heaven. I can't understand this.
Yeah.
That's right, because you can't understand what it means for God to be the first and the last. It's not He was here before us and He's going to be here after. It's not like that. It's still beyond our comprehension. Even when Imam al-Mahdi, Ajallah Farajul Sharif in Dua al-Iftitah, he says, Al-Basitu bil-Judi yadah, the one whose hand is spread open in the sense that he's very generous. You know? Alladhi la tanqisu khaza'inu. And his treasury does not get any less. Think about that. When you give, you lose. Money leaves your bank, doesn't it? When God gives, la tanqisu khaza'inu. Wa la tazidu kathratul ata. And if He gives, He doesn't get any more. He doesn't, when you give, you become more generous. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Allah doesn't become more generous. Some people have an opinion, God is not a creator until He creates. No. He's always the creator. Everything He did is of Him. That you can't understand this. And this is where we get lost. Then you get the philosophical arguments of the attributes. We have attributes
of God, yeah.
And you go this in the Hausa, something's debated. Are they a part of His, are they not? The seminary always has these debates.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, this is not my realm. I'm not going to get involved here because if I do,
you can lose yourself.
You will. Because the shaitan says this is my
his playground.
This is my playground. This is where I take control. Because you're entering something that you have no knowledge of. There's a documentary that BBC made. It's called Dangerous Knowledge. I always tell people to watch it. It's about these mathematicians that try and understand infinity, and they go mad. Scientists, they just go mad. They go crazy. They start to, because they want to understand the concept. See, a lot of the constants that we use in mathematics, a lot of the constants you use, they're not exact. When we sit and they go, pi is 3.1. No.
Something.
That's not, that constant is not accurate. You know that. You know how it's not accurate because you know how they came about it. It's like they drew a polygon inside the circle and another polygon outside the circle, and then they used the area they'd subtract, and they made the polygon like a multi and they got it to the closest they can get the constant to. So they said it's 22/7. That's the closest but it's still not 100% accurate.
That's right.
There's a lot of these things that we follow that we just accept. In the documentary, there was one guy who was writing a thesis on how 1 + 1 = 2, and he went crazy. He went mad just going over it and over it. And this is man-made knowledge. It's man-made knowledge. So let's try and understand something that's not man-made. It's a good documentary. It's a 2-part documentary. It's actually one of those I enjoyed.
What's it called? Dangerous Knowledge.
It's called Dangerous Knowledge.
Okay, something to
It
look
talks
up.
about a lot of, even the guy that cracked the Enigma code for World War II, he killed himself as well. Yeah, and then they blamed it, they said, because he was part of the Rainbow Brigade. That's what they reckon. But it's because of this. They went mad. Even I think they made a biography
there were
movie
two,
for that mathematician.
A Dangerous Mind.
Brilliant Mind, is it?
A Brilliant Mind or a Dangerous
Brilliant Mind.
I think
So
Dangerous Mind is something else.
They show these people, they go mad. They actually go mad from what they know. And that's man-made studies, not
divine, yeah.
not divine.
Yeah.
It's another level altogether.
Sheikh, as usual, we've really stormed through the time we have available. I want to close with two questions to you. And I'll ask them both to you, and you're welcome to answer or decline. First of all, when is the best time to make dua? Time of day, time of life, time of anything, right?
I'm going to read a hadith.
Okay, all right. Let me ask you the second one, and then you can answer. And second, and this is a reflection of when I was young, and when we'd sit through dua and whatnot, maybe at the center, maybe somewhere else, or my parents would, when we were very young, there weren't really places to go for Shahr Ramadan, for Laylatul Qadr and whatnot, so my parents would sit us down and we'd do the amal together, and my thought was this when I was a kid, right? Do I have to recite all these long and tiring du'as for God to hear me and to hear my du'a?
Okay. First one. Firstly, Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Shahr Ramadan was made in that month. That was the best month in Allah's deciding of the months. This was the month that was chosen. And every place, the place where we perform Hajj, is the best land. So everything has a reason. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, Inna Allaha farada salawat fi afdal sa'at. The salah you pray for subh, dhuhr, asr, maghrib, these are the best times of the day. He says, alaykum bid-du'a fi adbar as-salah. This is a hadith. This is telling you that the answer. You are meant to do dua at the end of your prayer. After you finish prayer, ask Allah. This is the best time to do dua. It's a hadith. It's plain. I finish Salat al-Subh, I do dua. I finish Salat al-Dhuhr, I do dua. Asr, Maghrib, Isha, I do dua. The best time to do dua is the end of Salah. Now, as for dua, remember you mentioned that sometimes when you're reading, when did you do this? You did mention this. You mentioned this in Shahr Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr.
Yep.
You said to me that sometimes when you read a dua, while the spirituality is there, read. When it finishes, get out. That's what you actually said.
Yep.
And when he said that, this is something, it's funny he said this. One of my teachers said that his father would do this.
Yeah.
He said they'd be reading Dua Kumail, and then everyone would start, yawning or chatting or turning, and he'd say, stop the dua. That's it.
Because everybody's checked out, right?
That's it. So, in other words, and I do this sometimes, I'll grab Dua Abi Hamza, I'll just read a paragraph in it. Or read a paragraph from Dua Imam Hussein. And then that's it. When I get the flavor, I get the hit I want, the flavor from Dua, that's it. Remember, Dua Abi Hamza, this long dua, what's the end of it? He says, Ya man yaqbalu al-yasir wa ya'fu an al-kathir. Allah accepts what's little.
Yeah.
That's why you look, what's the best action?
Yeah.
Afdalul a'mal as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
The most simplest act is the best act. The most simplest act is salawat. And the reason Allah accepts what's little from us, and Allah forgives the lot.
Yeah.
And that's why, no, you don't want to do dua, at least say salawat. You don't want to say, do something. Turn to God. When we used to take people to Hajj, inshallah we get to go again.
Inshallah.
I used to tell people, you're not going to do anything in the Kaaba, just sit and look at the Kaaba. Just look at it. That's enough. You're not going to do anything, no dua, just look at the Kaaba.
But Sheikh, you mentioned that, sitting in front of the Kaaba and whatnot, but often you get to that stage, you're sitting in front of the Kaaba, and then that dua doesn't come out, and you feel guilty because that you have this opportunity, and the dua is not coming, or you can't read anymore, or it's too late, or you're tired, or whatever.
You're being half cup empty. You're here. God chose you, and the other, whatever people that are there, that Allah has accepted, He chose you to be here. And some person is somewhere in Bali or Phuket while you're in Mecca. How fortunate are you?
Yeah.
That's what you look. I'm so fortunate I'm here.
Yeah.
Allah chose me to be here. That's something big for me. Like right now, the people that at the center, people in a majlis, you know, I sit there and I think to myself, you know, when someone invites me to go somewhere, I go, I'm so lucky. Rather than waste my time doing nothing, Allah's invited me to be here.
Yep.
This is Husseini. This is Imam Hussein Islamic Center. It's a house of Imam Hussein. You're at Imam Hussein's house. How many of you would kill to be in the house of Imam Hussein?
100%.
And you're here. And not only are you here, you've been invited to be here. Don't think you just turned up here. You've been invited. There's a lot of things to do on a Friday and a Saturday night. There's a lot of things. There are many things you can do. You can go waste your time doing whatever. You've come to the center. Right now, you know why? May Allah prolong your lives. I do not wish anyone, but may Allah prolong your lives. You know when I used to go Hajj, and we'd go Ziyarat Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. One of my favorite parts of Ziyarah is, you know, when the plane takes off, how it does tawaf around the shrine. The plane does tawaf around the shrine of Imam al-Rida, and it goes. And we were going back to Beirut. Then I was on my way to London to lecture for Muharram. This was my favorite time. It's my purification process. And then when I get to Heathrow, and there's always what? There's always what do they call it? In the air, what do they call
Turbulence.
it? Turbulence in the aeroplane. And the plane's going crazy. And the whole time thinking, if it falls, I don't care.
So you've been purified.
This is the way I feel. This is the way I feel. When you're here, may Allah prolong, if I'm here, I go here, I don't care. Who's going to touch me? I've just come out of the house of Imam Hussein. Yeah. What angel's going to touch you? Who dares go near you when you've come out of the house of Imam Hussein? This is something you should solemnly believe. You're at the house of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Every place that you go to that's for Allah. These are the houses of God. That you've been chosen to come to the house of God. This is a blessing. If you just sit here, like I tell people, if you're going to sleep in here, it's better than you going elsewhere. If you're going to sit and sleep, it's better than you going elsewhere. We're fortunate. And these are the things I always think about. You know, one day it's going to be over.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to come
and those
here
opportunities aren't going to be there.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
so on.
It's like right now, 2 years we haven't been anywhere.
Yeah. That's right.
Never thought it would happen, but it's happened.
Right. Yeah. Sheikhna Ahsan, thank you very much for this evening. And thank you everybody for joining us. Inshallah, you'll keep in touch with us on Facebook, website. I don't know, what else do we have? We have WhatsApp, we have email, we have so many things. Keep in touch with us. We have some fantastic programs coming up. Next week, inshallah, we have the birthday anniversary of Sayyidah Zainab, alayhi salam. And following that, we have the Fatimiyya begins as well. So the first Fatimiyya is coming up in almost 2 weeks' time. So keep in touch, and inshallah all of the programs and timings will be published. And inshallah, to finish off this evening, Sheikh will recite dua. Thank you very much, Sheikh.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم قل لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين ولقبول الأعمال وتعجيل الفرج وشفاء المرضى وقضاء الحوائج وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات على محمد.